The world is quite a scary place for trans people right now, so I really wanted to put out my experience with getting gender-affirming healthcare, just to put some trans joy back into the universe and also maybe just help out other people who are going through similar experiences as me. That way we can kind of virtually go through things together. I did write out a full script for this video, so if I'm just looking down the whole time, it's just because my script is on my computer. I'm going to try and put up some visual aids as I go as well. So my top surgery consisted of 3 surgeries, which was a mastectomy, liposuction and nipple grafting, and I got it with Tuve Mårtensson in the Reform Kliniken in Malmö in Sweden. Those names definitely sound much nicer and not my accent. They sound so nice in Swedish. So in total, my surgery cost me 90,800 Swedish crowns. 90,000 of these crowns was the surgery itself, which comes to around £6,730 and 45 pence. Exchange rate changes over time, but that's exactly what came out my bank account when I paid back in January 2025. And then the other 800 crowns went towards the consultation fee and the medication fee. I'm filming this video exactly 2 months out from my surgery, so things may change after this point, but I'm pretty much in the last healing phase. The only thing that isn't fully healed is that my incisions aren't fully healed over. And I also still don't have feeling across my chest, but it's a possibility that that will never come back, so I'm just kind of waiting that one out at this point. I'm also just not very bothered about my feeling coming back in my chest. I'd rather have the look than I'd have the feeling. So I feel like I'm at a good point to share my experience with getting this surgery. So that's what I'm going to do in this video, starting out with the consultation day. So my consultation was on the 6th of April, and this was the first time I've ever met the surgeon in person because he's in Sweden and I'm in England. But even so, he already had all my information because I've already filled out multiple forms online. The consultation was basically just me reiterating everything I'd already told him, just so he could have all the correct information and check everything over, and also just to assess my mental state going into the surgery. He also at this point looked at my chest and drew on like vague lines of where the surgery incisions were going to end up and where the nipples were going to end up. I really didn't enjoy this part because I did not like people seeing my chest in the slightest, but he was very professional about it, so it wasn't all as bad as I thought it would be. Still, it was quite uncomfortable, but I knew that it was for a good reason. I didn't even say how lovely he was. He was absolutely amazing. He was just so nice, so direct, very much listening to what I had to say and making really detailed notes on everything. It just felt like a very safe and professional environment to be in. All in all, I feel like the consultation was very focused on informed consent. I was told what to expect with the surgery, how long it would take, the healing timeline, the sort of look that I was going to get. Everything was just laid out very clearly so I could physically agree to it and we could go straight ahead with the surgery 2 days later. The day before my surgery, which was the 7th of April, I went to the pharmacy to pick up my medication and compression socks. I had bought some compression socks from home, but I was told I needed them to be in a sealed packet, so I went and grabbed some more of them. And the medication I picked up at this point was cafadroxil. I'm probably going to say all of this wrong. That's an antibiotic. It prevents infection from the surgery. And then I also got paracetamol and celecoxib. I will put that name up on the screen because I really don't know where to go with that name. Both of these are painkillers for after the surgery. It all came to around 300 crowns, which is about £23, which is much cheaper than I was expecting. I don't know why. I thought it'd be much more expensive than this, so I was really pleased with this price. Once I was home from the pharmacy, I had a list of things that I needed to do. So my surgery intake was at 6 AM the next morning, which meant the last time I could eat was 8 PM, which was 10 hours before the intake time. And at that time I needed to take a cafadroxil pill, but no other medication. Secondly, I needed to hydrate a lot because I wasn't going to be able to drink water up to 4 hours before the surgery, and I get quite dehydrated in the morning, so I really wanted to prepare for that ahead of time. Thirdly, I needed to shower and needed to have a full body shower, including my hair. And finally, I had to pack my little bag to take with me. Packing wise, I needed my ID, compression socks, and a clean pair of underwear for the surgery day itself. And then I also needed to pack a change of clothes, all my medication, my headphones, and my charging box for my phone, just in case I had to stay at the surgery clinic overnight. Overall, this was a very smooth day. I didn't sleep very well that night because I was very nervous, and obviously I didn't get much sleep because I had to wake up really early in the morning. But I was very lucky that my boyfriend came to Malmö with me, so he was very good at just keeping me very calm and just letting me watch him play video games, which is one of my favorite things to do. I don't really play video games, but I love watching them play them. We also got really good burgers for dinner from a place called the Vegan Bar, and it was so good. I would highly recommend. On the day of the surgery, I had to wake up at 4 AM so I could take another cafadroxil pill, and then I need to take another shower, which was one of 3 showers I took on surgery day, but I'll get to the other 2 later on in this video. After my shower, I then put clothes on. I put on clothes that I deemed quite easy to take on and off, so I had a button-up shirt that I borrowed from my boyfriend, and then I also wore this hoodie because it's very easy for me to pull over my head because it's quite oversized. And then trousers wise, I wore a pair with an adjustable waistband. This is because I was told I would get quite bloated distracted from the anesthesia, so I really wanted to not have something pressing against my stomach too much today, as I really didn't want to be uncomfortable later on. With my outfit on, we could then just head straight over to the clinic. So the clinic actually has two entrances. One is on the ground floor and it goes into the consultation spaces, and the second one is on the 5th floor and it goes into the actual surgery itself. So on this day, unlike the day before, we went to the other side of the building and went up in the lift to the surgical floor. This was also the point at which I had to say goodbye to my boyfriend, which was really sad. You can't actually bring people into the clinic with you because it's quite small, and also just for health and safety reasons. Because obviously it's a sterile environment, it's much easier to keep it as sterile as possible if there's less people around. So I was taken in by one of the nurses, and everyone in the surgery clinic was telling me their names, but I'm really bad with names and faces, so unfortunately I don't remember any of them. All you need to know about all of them is that they were all absolutely lovely. They were so helpful, so caring, and they really did seem like they cared a lot about me. And even when we didn't share a language, they were very good at working out what I needed in every moment. So it definitely comes across as if they're very used to working with people from all different countries. This nurse showed me to my room and showed me which bed would be mine. I was in one of the shared rooms, but I didn't actually end up sharing it. I guess no one had a surgery at the same time as me, so I had a double room, but it was just me in it. I was also given my hospital bracelet, some forms to fill out, and a basket with all of my clean toiletries in it, which was 2 towels, a dressing gown, and some slippers to put on. Once I'd filled out all the forms, I was then taken to the shower room where I had to shower in antiseptic, and then I had to put on my clean underwear, compression socks, dressing gown, and the slippers. Once I got back from my shower, I then met the anesthesiologist, and he put the IV in the back of my hand. He also at this point took away the forms that I filled out because they were for him specifically, and then my surgeon came in and he took me to a consultation room to draw up the actual lines for my surgery. And just like with everything else, he very directly got my consent for where he placed all the lines, and then he also wrote what type of surgery I was getting across my chest. After that, I went back to my room and I was given lots of medication to take. This was 6 pills, I believe, and then a really horrible liquid medication. He did give me some like strawberry drink to wash it all down with, and I'm really grateful for that because the liquid was absolutely disgusting. Apparently it was also anti-nausea, which makes me so confused because I can't believe something that's made to not make you sick would taste so much like it would make you sick. Then I went on to the really scary bit, which was actually going under for the surgery. I'm so grateful for the nurse that was in the room with me. She was very, very comforting. We didn't speak the same language at all. She seemed to only speak Swedish, but her bedside manner was so good. She could really tell that I was nervous and really helped me out a lot in that situation. Like I had to take off my robe and she could tell I was uncomfortable with showing my chest, so she held the robe over me. And then when I was on the bed, she put the robe on top of me as well, so I was always covered up while I was awake, which I really, really appreciate. It was definitely these sort of little things that made me feel really safe in this environment. She also, once I had the oxygen mask on, you have to wear an oxygen mask for surgery just to give you extra oxygen as you're going under. She then like sat on the side of the bed and put her arm across my leg, which was really nice. It just felt very comforting once again. The only other person in the room at this point was the anesthesiologist, and he connected my IV to like the drip bags, and he first put through another anti-nausea medication and then went on to putting in the anesthetic. And with anesthetic, he warned me that it could hurt a little bit as I went in. It kind of feels like it's burning a little bit around your wrist. It's really strange. It doesn't hurt, it just feels really strange. And the last thing I remember at this point was him asking if I could feel it, and I said I could feel it in my hand, and then I don't remember anything else after that. I don't know if he asked me if I was feeling woozy or anything. I was just completely gone. Everything was gone. I don't actually remember being woken up from surgery. I've had surgery before, and I also don't remember waking up from that. But I'm pretty sure they must have woken me up in the actual theatre because I feel like that's common practice with surgeries. But the first time I actually remember waking up was back in my original room, and I was woken up because the nurse came in to tell me that I needed to lie on my back because I was trying to roll over and like snuggle into the bed, and I was not allowed to do that because that's where the surgery incisions were, obviously. At this point I took a photo just kind of up the top of my head to send to my boyfriend so he would know that I was awake and I was doing okay, and then I went straight back to sleep again. Almost exactly an hour later, I was then woken up by a nurse to check on me, and I took another photo to send to more of my friends and family just so they would know that I was okay. And then I went back to sleep again for another hour. At the next check-in, I was asked if I wanted to eat yet, but I said no, I just wanted to go back to sleep again, so I went back to sleep again, and then I woke up about 40 minutes later. So this time I was actually awake when the nurse came in, and I did agree to eat at this point. This nurse was also really nice. She didn't speak much English either, but she was very clear that my meal was vegan. She gave it to me and she kept saying, "It is vegan, I checked it's vegan," vegan, which was very much appreciated. Especially for this meal because it does have a spread on it, and if I wasn't told it was vegan, I probably wouldn't have eaten it because I wouldn't trust that spread. So it was very nice for her just to continue to repeat that I could eat this food, and she had checked that. This was something that was on my form, obviously. I didn't tell her in person that I was vegan. So this really shows how much they keep track of everything. I was also at this point given even more drugs to take with my food. And there was more food than I got a picture of. I had 2 slices of toast, a bowl of grapes, and then a couple slices of watermelon as well. It was actually really good. I would highly recommend this hospital for food. At my next checkup, it was actually the anesthesiologist who came in, and he was the one who took off all of my medical binders so that I could finally see my new chest for the first time. I was very drugged out, but I was also just incredibly happy. It was so amazing to see it for the first time. I know a lot of people don't actually see their chest at this point. I've seen other people say that they only saw it at the post-op appointment, but I was very lucky that in this clinic they don't actually do it that way. They let you see it on the day that you get the surgery itself. I did feel a little bit dizzy at this point, but it was actually a blessing in disguise because he let me lie down with my feet up, but it meant that I didn't have any of the binder garments on, so I could actually just sit. I just kind of sat like this and just appreciated everything. It was really nice. I'm really glad I felt dizzy, actually. I feel like even if you didn't feel dizzy in this moment, just say you feel a little bit dizzy and they just let you sit and appreciate for, I think, about 10 or 15 minutes. It was really, really nice just to be able to sit. This surgery is definitely the best decision I have ever made. I don't think I've loved anything more than this ever in my entire life. That feels mean to say because obviously I have a boyfriend and I love them very, very much. But also saying that, they once made a list of things they love and I was 3rd on the list. Obviously the dog was first, that makes sense. But then I was also behind his favourite space game, so maybe I should just not care as much. Anyways, after that like 10-15 minutes of just appreciating my chest, the anesthesiologist then showed me how to put the binder back on. And he also gave me a printed out sheet of instructions on how to take the medication. I've somehow completely misplaced this piece of paper. I thought I brought it back to England, but I didn't. But I do want to make it very clear that it was all written out. He told everything to me verbally, obviously, but I also had it written out so I could refer to it later on. I feel like they do this because you are quite high after surgery, so you might not remember things correctly. But basically the breakdown of medication was that I needed to take 2 cafodroxil pills every day, one with dinner and one with lunch, and I needed to do this until the box was empty, so I took them for 5 days in total. And then I needed to take 2 paracetamol and 1 celecoxib every 6 hours for 4 days, but then I could also take them for an additional 3 days if I was still in quite a lot of pain. And then he also gave me 2 extra bags of medication, which he very helpfully labelled when in pain and when in heavy pain, and these I could take at any point during my recovery, and they are just much stronger painkillers. After all that information was given, I was then given the green light to ring my boyfriend, and then we headed home and we ate some food and I watched him play GTA until like 4 in the morning, and then we finally fell asleep. I feel like there's not much more to say about the surgery day itself. It all went very smoothly, felt very professional, felt very safe, felt very cared for. Obviously I do wish that my boyfriend could have come into the clinic with me, but I fully understand why he couldn't be there. But I know for some other people that would be incredibly nerve-wracking and they wouldn't want to do it. But in this scenario, I feel like the nurses are so nice and so kind, and they were really good at talking through everything with me and just having general conversations with me. I didn't really put it in any of my scripts, but I did have some just general conversation with these people, and it was always really nice. Like, we just chatted about our days, our work. I asked a few of them how long they've been working for the clinic. Moving now on to the healing process. So for the healing, I would definitely separate it into 4 different stages. The first stage I would call the early days. The second stage I would call the pre-post-op days. The third stage I would call the post-post-op days. And the final stage I would call the post-binder days. And each of these stages was longer than the previous stage. So the early days are the first 3 days of recovery, and they are definitely the hardest part of the recovery process. In these days I was very nauseous. I couldn't sleep at all because I was getting used to sleeping upright. It's just such an uncomfortable way of sleeping. I was also in quite a lot of pain, and the pain was getting worse with each day. So the third day was just incredibly painful, and this was the only day where I took an extra when in pain medication. I really don't like taking a lot of medication. I'm one of those people that really powers through when I'm in pain. So for me to take one of these pills, it was quite a lot for me. My boyfriend kept telling me that I can take them whenever and it doesn't matter, but for me mentally, I don't like having those sorts of medications. I don't know what it is. I know they're fully safe. It's not that I don't trust the medications, it's fully a mental thing. But yeah, on the third day I had to take medication because I was in a lot of pain and I was very uncomfortable. and I also felt very trapped. I don't like not leaving the house, but I was too tired and in too much pain to actually leave the house, so I was probably quite insufferable to deal with on the third day. We did go out on day 2 actually, but we didn't go out very long. We just went out to get a coffee and a matcha, and I got so exhausted doing this, even though it was just a 10-minute walk from the house, a sit down and then a 10-minute walk back. It was just a lot. So I definitely recommend, if you're having this surgery, to not plan to do anything for at least the first 3 days. Then you can slowly add things back into your life. After these 3 days, I would say you move on to the pre-post-op surgery days. And these are the days where everything just gets slowly, consistently easier as you go. I was very bloated at this point though. I wasn't very bloated until day 4, I believe. But at this point I was incredibly bloated from the anesthesia, so that was quite uncomfortable. But other than that, the pain of my chest was really going away. Like after day 3, I don't remember having much pain in my chest other than when it was knocked a few times by my boyfriend, because we were sleeping in the same bed. He did sometimes just go to naturally hug me and then knock my chest and it hurt me. But other than that, it was much easier. I also had onesies on, so I didn't have anything tight on my stomach for the bloating, which was really nice. And I could also leave the house a lot more, so we were going out for like lunches and dinners at this point. I will say this is when my bruising started to look incredibly bad. Obviously I did have bruising straight out of surgery, but this is when it got to the point where it was like yellow and green and it looked really gross, but obviously that is just how bruises heal. I was, however, really heavily documenting the bruising just in case they got worse at any point. They actually didn't get any worse until much later in the healing process when I was wearing the binder too tight, but I will get to that in a later stage of the healing. Moving now on to stage 3, which is the post-op appointment phase, which is a very creative name by me. This day started on day 10 when I went back to the clinic for my post-op appointment. At this appointment, the nurse that I had took off my nipple dressings that my boyfriend was calling garlic cloves for the whole time. They really did look like garlic cloves, to be fair. She also changed out my scar tape during this appointment, and I was given new care instructions. So now I needed to dress my nipples every day after my shower, just with a little bit of nipple dressing and some scar tape, and I also needed to change out the scar tape every week for another 10 weeks post-op. So obviously I'm still changing out the scar tape to this day. Like with the second stage, I was just getting more and more energy back every single day, and I was being able to do a lot more things. Like I felt at this point like I could definitely go back to my everyday life. This is also the phase in which I went back to work, and I work in a bar, so it's a lot of lifting, and also I don't sit down for my entire shift. So as you can imagine, that would have been really, really difficult even a couple days prior to this. So I'm really glad that once I started to feel better, I felt better so quickly. Like even on day 5, I felt 10 times better than I did on day 3. So you can imagine by week 2, I was doing miles better. I was just completely back to normal. I just couldn't lift my arms as high as I normally would. And I also had the responsibility of keeping my dressings clean and also keeping the binder on all the time. Moving now on to the final phase of the healing process, which is the post-binder phase. This is the phase that I went into yesterday, so I now don't have to wear my binder at all anymore. I just have the scar tape on. With the scar tape, I've been told I have to keep it on for another 2 weeks, and then after that it's completely up to me. Some people keep it on a lot longer because it helps those scars look a little bit less visible later on, but for me, I really kind of want the scars there. I would quite like nice happy scars across my chest, so I'm not really going to do anything to help the scars not look as obvious. The other thing that I've still got is I've still got a lot of bruising. The bruising that I've got now is actually because I was wearing my binder too tightly. So I've got quite a lot of bruising at the center of my chest where the surgery didn't really even touch, but it's because I was pulling my binder like too tightly, like across myself. But he says it's not causing any damage, so I think it's all okay. According to my surgeon, I will most likely be fully healed at around the 3-month mark. Obviously it can take longer than that, and again the feeling of your chest might not come back after that point, but the 3 months mark is when I can fully go back to doing everything that I normally would, which mainly is lifting my arm above my head. Like currently I don't lift my arm very high because my chest is very tight and I don't want to pull at the scars. But soon I'll be able to completely lift my arm again, which I'm very excited for. I'll also be able to lift much heavier things again, which again, for my work is so helpful because watching people lug around kegs when I can't help is really infuriating. Basically, according to my surgeon, I'm healing very well so far, and he expects it to continue going well for the rest of the healing process. And that makes me incredibly happy because I am so happy with my chest, and I'm so glad that it's healing well. I feel like even if it wasn't healing well, it wouldn't make me unhappy with it. But obviously no one wants complications complications with surgery. So I'm very happy that it looks really great, I feel really great, and it's just physically and internally going really well. But yeah, that is my entire surgery experience so far. If you have any questions on it, please leave them down below in the comments and I'll try to get back to you if I do know the answers. Obviously, I'm not an expert on this, so if things are more technical, I probably won't know them, but I will try my best. And yeah, I really hope you enjoyed this video. Please give it a like and subscribe to my channel because I post video every single week. Obviously, most of the time it's not surgery related. I do a lot of sewing on here. I also do some makeup videos ever so often. So if you enjoyed that sort of content, I'd really appreciate you sticking around. But until next time, bye!